Now, environmental campaigners Harry and Meghan, remember them? They've just arrived in Canada, and guess what? They've arrived on a gas-guzzling private jet. Of course they have, because they began a 3-day visit ahead of next year's Invictus Games.
The pair recently rebranded their website, cashing in on, well, appearing to be cashing in on their royal pedigree. And Cameron Walker, our royal correspondent, is in the studio. This website, Cameron, is really overshadowing, isn't it, this trip to Canada, even if it is by private jet, because this is all about, as I understand it, the agreement they had with the late Queen, and they are being accused of breaking that promise.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was all to do with the Sandringham Summit in 2020, where they were thrashing out negotiations of how Harry and Meghan's life would look when they were no longer working members of the royal family. At that summit, it was agreed that they would not commercialise the use of the word royal. What wasn't in black and white on the paper was the word Sussex or any reference to royal symbols, which is why perhaps we see the coat of arms, the royal crest, Duchess of Sussex's crest, on the homepage of this website. So the accusation is, although it's not legally binding, the deal with Buckingham Palace, is it in bad faith that Harry and Meghan are loosely, allegedly, using their royal connections for commercial gain? That's the accusation. Harry and Meghan would say that the Duke and Duchess of Sussex is their legal title, it's their name, they have a right to use it. But of course it's up to Buckingham Palace and Lord Chamberlain if they want to take it any further.
It's not really their name though, is it? Because they got the dukedom was part of the gift from the Queen when he got married. His name is Mountbatten Windsor.
Yeah, but getting rid of this title, Andrew, is very difficult. It needs an Act of Parliament to do it. Sure. The last time that happened was 1917 to get rid of the German princes' titles during World War I. So, you know, it would take a lot for Harry and Meghan to lose these titles.
Yeah, but by using that title, they are shamelessly exploiting the royal title that the Queen gave them.
And of course, it's all overshadowing the Invictus Games one-year countdown, which is why they're in Canada. Of course, it's Harry's organisation to help wounded veterans have a purpose again, similar to the Olympic Games. But of course, again, they've distracted from it by flying in on a private jet where there are a number of commercial planes available from Los Angeles to Vancouver where this is being held. But I suppose their argument would be it's for security reasons they have to fly on a private jet.
Absolutely. And also the timing of all this, because, you know, we know it's a very difficult time for them. Prince Charles, I still say it, King Charles diagnosed with a form of cancer. That's difficult for any family. Did they not know that this was going to be very controversial by doing this?
Of course they did.
Well, I think... What, the private jet, do you mean?
Well, or just the website.
And the Sussex.com.
All of it is...
You know, the problems that could now cause.
I think it is quite poor timing, but we can see it was clearly well-timed from their perspective because it was launched just before they're going to make a public appearance in Canada for the Invictus Games. Meghan's podcast is being relaunched by a company called Lemonada Media. That was out last night.
I can't wait.
And she's going to create another podcast, which is as yet untitled.
Even more exciting.
They're ramping up their public appearances, Andrew.
Even more excitement.
And the website, I suppose, is the anchor for that. So it's probably all in the planning, to be honest, before the King was diagnosed with cancer. Right. But, of course, it's all happening at the same time.
They could have delayed. They could change their plans, of course, Cameron. Of course they could. But also, I think it's an irony, isn't it, that if you look at the website, the new website, doesn't it say on the first page that Harry is an environmental campaigner and he's arrived in a private jet and it's a 3.5-hour flight?
Yeah, it's a 3.5-hour direct flight from Los Angeles to Vancouver. It's in the biography section of Harry's, you know, on the website, in the biography section of Harry, it says, and I quote, environmental campaigner.
I've been on flights before with senior royals, and we've not been on private jets. They didn't need to do that. And they just can't. They just don't get it, do they?
And Harry flew from Los Angeles to London in a commercial jet.
He did.
With normal members of the public as well when he went to see his father. So it isn't unheard of. I think perhaps they would argue it's for ease, the timings probably didn't work, security reasons, all of that. But of course, it's not a great look and distracts from the purpose, again, the Invictus Games.
It wasn't Taylor Swift's private jet, was it, by any chance?
I don't know, quite possibly, but I don't think Taylor Swift talks about the environment too much, so perhaps she gets away a bit more.
Yeah, and what are we going to see much of them when they're there?
Yes, it's a 3-day trip. There's going to be lots of engagements to do with the Invictus Games. The Mail's also reporting there's a separate public engagement Harry and Meghan are doing in Vancouver itself. So,
right. Isn't that where they moved to initially?
Vancouver Island, yeah. So in January 2020, following Megxit, they moved there. And then just before the pandemic, they quickly moved to California before lockdown happened. So it was their original base.